Hey there, friend. I hope this finds you well. I've been a bit behind on the times with posting videos. In fact, I was hoping to have this one done before or near New Year's, but tempus fugit, and hey, better late than never. So today let's talk about calendars and timekeeping. Time. It's a bit of an abstract concept when you think about it. Let's start with something more concrete, like a foot. It's not just attached to your ankle, but also a measurement for distance. Someone else had the idea for the metric system, so to convert those units, 1 foot equals about 0.305 meters. Measurements are a man-made system used to record and communicate dimensions. The concept of distance has a collection of units to measure with, as does time. Time at its most basic most likely started with nighttime versus daytime, light versus dark. Key points of the day include sunrise, noon, and sunset, and maybe at the middle of the night, something like midnight. An hour was just the amount of sunlight divided into 12 equal parts, so your summer hour was greater than your winter hour, and everyone was just okay with that. The church would use this for its office of the hours. Matins was right before dawn, the first hour was the first bit of sunlight, third hour, sixth hour was around noon, and then the ninth hour and the 12th hour, or vespers, was the end/start of the new day. The sundial was the hot topic of the day for sure. Compline was as soon as it was night, and then the midnight office was just somewhere in the middle when you wake up and be like, oh, I guess it's the middle of the night now. We didn't have as much hours for nighttime, but not for lack of caring. Astronomers would track the wandering stars and planets. This, combined with the Jewish 12-day week, gives us our modern-day Sunday through Saturday week. And the cycle of the moon was, for many cultures, their first month. The Romans used to start with March, and they didn't even have January or February yet. And then just straight out started numbering the months by the 5th month, which explains September through December, even though it doesn't make sense anymore. This was all still back in the day when science and religion were best buds, and the religious stargazers started to want to be more exact with their timing. So to measure time better at night as well as day, the hours became 60 minutes, 3,600 seconds, making each full day a set 24 hours that began now at midnight instead. Julius and Augustus Caesar worked so hard at the calendar that they got months named after them. January and February were added, and Julius had the calendar itself named after him. So fancy. Giving us a calendar that we're pretty used to today. Monks were using fancy candles to keep more exact measurements of the hours that they needed to pray. Tinkermen started making these cool clocks using gears and pendulums. But then, on October 5th, 1582, Pope Gregory and a bunch of his friends were like, oh, the Julian calendar is not as accurate as we'd like it to be, especially when we're looking at Easter. So they time traveled 10 days into the future, which kind of caused its own kind of riots and chaos. But more importantly, this is the Gregorian calendar that most of us use today, which in 2019 now has a 13-day difference. This means that December 25th on the Gregorian calendar, when most of us celebrate Christmas, is only December 12th on the Julian calendar. The new year for the Gregorian calendar is only December 19th on the Julian. January 6th, which is when most of us celebrate Theophany, is only Christmas Eve or December 24th on the Julian. The 7th of January is finally the day of Christmas on the Julian calendar currently. And if you want to celebrate Happy New Year on the Julian calendar, you have to wait until January 14th on the Gregorian calendar to do so. Also, quick side note, Theophany, which is celebrated on January 6th, no matter what calendar you're looking at, is when the Armenians are celebrating both Christmas and Theophany. They don't do no December 25th stuff. Then, in 1923, with the help of Milutin Milankovitch, a new calendar was formed, yet again, sometimes known as the Revised Julian Calendar. This is just a church calendar that uses pretty much the Gregorian calendar for fixed dates and the Julian calendar for movable dates. I'm sure there's more involved, but that's basically how I understand it. So here in the Orthodox Christian world, because we're still not sure what the word simple means, about half of us are using the Julian or old/older calendar, as it's sometimes called. The other half of us are using the Milankovitch/revised Julian/new or newer calendar. And then that one small sliver using the Gregorian calendar is Finland! Finland. Yay, Finland! Also listed here for your edification are the Orthodox churches and the dates that they moved over to the revised Julian calendar that I found on a wiki page. So Estonia, Constantinople, Cyprus, Greece, Romania, and some parts of Poland, Alexandria, Antioch, Albania, and Bulgaria. Those are all the churches that are currently using the revised Julian calendar. With many different cultures and people all over the world, it's inevitable to have different systems of keeping track of time. The ancient Chinese used sequential fillings of water to keep track of time, and they're pretty well known for their lunar calendar. Happy upcoming Chinese New Year, by the way. It's going to be the year of the pig. And speaking of lunar calendars, there's also the Jewish calendar and the Mayan calendar that caused such a headache for us just recently. With all this blend of science and religion and culture, it's good to remember that time itself is a neutral variable, and the way that we record it is a man-made and kind of even a social construct. It's a human system, which means that there's human history attached to it. And no matter who you're talking to, just keep in mind that it's better to have right being than to be right. Sure, ideally, as a human race, we can find that unity together so that we can communicate and love each other and work together as best as possible, but not at the expense of our human rights and freedoms. So, always looking at those two different sides of the same coin. Anyway, that's all I think I have time for to talk to you today. There's a lot more we could get into, but I'm Anastasia, and it's been nice to see you. And I hope whatever time you're on, that you are living well.